In this guide, why network perimeter security fails against lateral movement, how the 5 pillars of zero trust work together: identity, device, network, application, and data, what a policy enforcement point and policy decision point look like in a real deployment, and the NIST SP 802-07 framework. Identity Expert, powering you to be an expert in identity. Today we're covering Zero Trust Architecture, the security model that replaces perimeter-based network security with continuous identity-centric access control. The old model assumed that anything inside the corporate network could be trusted. The perimeter was the wall, get past the firewall and you were in. Zero Trust rejects this assumption entirely. In a Zero Trust architecture, location is irrelevant. Being on the corporate network gives you nothing by default. Every access request, whether from inside the office or from a coffee shop, must be authenticated, authorized, and validated against policy before access is granted. And access is granted for the minimum necessary scope, for the minimum necessary duration. The phrase comes from John Kindervag's 2010 Forrester research paper, but it was operationalized into NIST SP 802-07, published in 2020, which defines the 7 tenets of Zero Trust and the logical architecture components. By the end of this video, you'll understand the core Zero Trust principles, how the policy engine and policy enforcement point work together, how ZTNA compares to legacy VPN, and what the 2026 regulatory landscape looks like. The classic analogy for perimeter security is a castle with a moat. The walls and moat keep attackers out, but once someone is inside the walls, whether a legitimate resident, a traitor, or an attacker who found another way in, they can walk anywhere. The castle's internal streets are trusted. The problem is that modern organizations don't have castles. They have users connecting from home, from airports, from partner sites, from personal phones. The network boundary is meaningless. And once an attacker gets a single foothold inside through a phishing attack, a compromised credential, or a rogue insider, they can move laterally through the entire trusted network unchallenged. Zero Trust is more like a secure research laboratory. Every door requires a separate badge scan. Every room access is logged. Your badge grants access only to the rooms you need for your current assignment. If your badge is compromised, the attacker can only access what you were authorized to access, not the entire building. Moving laterally requires compromising a new badge for each room. The access surface is bounded by identity and policy, not by physical location. Let's be precise about why perimeter security fails. There are 4 structural weaknesses. First, the perimeter no longer exists. Cloud workloads run outside the network perimeter. Employees work from home. SaaS applications are accessed directly from browsers without going through the corporate network. The trusted zone cannot be defined geographically. Second, lateral movement. Once an attacker gains any foothold inside the network, via a phishing attack, a compromised VPN credential, or a rogue insider, they can move freely through the internal network. The 2020 SolarWinds compromise is the canonical example. Attackers inserted malware into the SolarWinds Orion software update mechanism, and when organizations installed the update, the attacker had a trusted foothold inside 18,000 organizations simultaneously. Third, trust is all or nothing. VPN grants network-level access. Once connected, users can reach most internal resources. This violates the principle of least privilege at a foundational level. Fourth, visibility is limited. Perimeter security generates network flow logs, but has limited visibility into east-west traffic between internal systems. Attackers can move laterally for months without being detected. Zero Trust addresses all 4. It eliminates the concept of a trusted network, enforces per-request authorization, applies least privilege at the application level, and generates rich access logs for every request. NIST SP 802-07 defines Zero Trust around 3 logical components. The policy engine, PE, is the brain of the Zero Trust architecture. It evaluates every access request against a set of policies, combining signals, identity and authentication strength, device health posture, network location, data sensitivity, and behavioral risk signals. The PE makes a trust decision: grant, deny, or grant with conditions, such as requiring step-up authentication. The policy administrator, PA, translates the PE's decision into an access signal that the enforcement point can act on. In some implementations, the PE and PA are the same component. The policy enforcement point, PEP, is the gatekeeper. Every request to a resource must pass through the PEP. The PEP queries the PE for a trust decision, receives it, and either allows or blocks the request. ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access, products implement this at the network layer. An application connector sits in front of the resource, and a cloud-hosted PEP brokered by the ZTNA vendor enforces policy. The key architectural principle: the resource is never directly routable from the internet. Users connect to the ZTNA PEP. which connects to the application connector after the PE has verified the access request. The most concrete way to understand zero trust in practice is to compare ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access, with legacy VPN. With a VPN, the user authenticates once at the VPN concentrator and receives a network tunnel into the corporate network. The VPN authenticates the user, but then grants broad network-level access. The user can reach any internal IP address that routing permits. There is no per-application authorization. The network is the access boundary. With ZTNA, there is no network tunnel. The user authenticates to the ZTNA control plane. For each application they want to access, the ZTNA platform checks the PE's policy. Is this user authorized for this application with this device health posture right now? If yes, the ZTNA platform establishes an application-level proxy connection to the application connector embedded in the enterprise environment. The user never has network-level access. They can only reach applications explicitly authorized for them. The enterprise application is never exposed to the internet. It connects outbound to the ZTNA platform. No inbound firewall port is required. This is sometimes called a dark network pattern. Applications are invisible to internet scanners. An attacker who compromises a user's credentials in a ZTNA-protected environment can only access the specific applications that user was authorized for, not the entire network. Zero Trust is a model for reducing blast radius. It is not a silver bullet. 3 residual threats matter. First, identity provider compromise. Zero Trust places identity at the center. If the IDP is compromised, the attacker can authenticate as any user and the PE will grant access. The 2023 Microsoft breach, in which a Chinese threat actor obtained a signing key and forged authentication tokens, is the canonical example. Zero Trust requires treating the identity infrastructure itself as a high-value target requiring its own defense in depth. MFA on IDP admin accounts, anomaly detection on token issuance, and regular signing key rotation. Second, device health attestation bypass. ZTNA policies that check device health rely on attestation from device agents. A sophisticated attacker who compromises the device can potentially falsify health signals, obtaining access that should have been blocked based on device posture. Hardware-rooted attestation, TPM-based, is more resistant than software-only attestation. Third, overprivileged service accounts. Zero Trust focuses on human user access. Service-to-service communication, microservice APIs calling each other, often runs on long-lived service account credentials with broad scope. Applying Zero Trust principles to service accounts, workload identity, short-lived credentials per service authorization, is an extension of the model that many organizations have not yet implemented. As of 2026, Zero Trust has shifted from a conceptual model to a regulatory requirement in several sectors. U.S. Executive Order 14028, signed in 2021, mandated Zero Trust adoption across federal agencies with a 2024 target. CISA's Zero Trust Maturity Model version 2 provides a 5-pillar framework: identity, devices, networks, applications, and workloads and data. Agencies are required to reach specific maturity levels on each pillar. The model has been widely adopted as a voluntary framework outside the federal sector. On the technology side, 3 developments are reshaping implementation. Workload identity, machine-to-machine zero trust, using standards like SPIFFE and SVID, is eliminating long-lived service account keys in Kubernetes and cloud environments. Short-lived X509 certificates issued by workload identity systems rotate automatically, applying zero trust principles to service mesh traffic. The Continuous Access Evaluation Protocol, CAEP, allows resource servers to signal the IDP when access should be revoked in real time without waiting for token expiry. An AI-based risk scoring is enhancing the policy engine with behavioral signals that go beyond static policy. Anomalous access patterns, unusual data volumes, and session context contribute to dynamic trust scores. The trajectory: Zero Trust is becoming the default architecture for new deployments, with identity and device health as the primary access controls. All primary sources cited in today's guide are listed on screen. You'll find direct links to the RFCs and specifications in the video description below. If this breakdown helped you understand the topic better, please subscribe to Identity Expert. We publish a new protocol deep dive every week. Thanks for watching. If there's a specific identity standard, authentication flow, or security protocol you'd like us to cover next, drop it in the comments below. We build our content based on what the community asks for. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss an episode.